My guest at this time is Grace Marie Turner. She is president of the Galen Institute, one of the most respected health policy firms in the nation. She joins us today to react to what seems to be the president's change of heart on whether to address Obamacare repeal and replacement in this particular Congress. The president announcing after the Justice Department said it was siding with an effort to strike down Obamacare as a result of the change to the individual mandate penalty, that he wanted the Republicans to become known as the party of great health care and to do it right away. Mitch McConnell says that he doesn't think that's a good idea this year and in this Congress, so the president says he'll do it first thing after the next election. So, Grace Marie, thanks so much for being with us.
This is a crazy time, isn't it? I mean, there's so many things swirling around on healthcare right now. I'm sure people's heads are spinning just like they are for us here in Washington.
Oh, absolutely right here. So my guess is, I don't know what. I'll just ask you straight out here. Did the president get ahead of his skis without consulting Republicans in Congress here? Is this simply a matter of the math and that the Democrats control the House, so why bother? What's your rationale for what happened here?
The president has been committed to repealing and replacing, and replacing is an important part of this conversation, Obamacare from the beginning. And that passion has not gone away. This is in the media, so I'm not revealing any confidences, but apparently when Lindsey Graham, Senator Graham, South Carolina, played golf with the president in Florida 2 Sundays ago, they talked about health care. And Senator Graham talked about the plan that our Health Policy Consensus Group has been working on for a year, new generation of reform, the Healthcare Choices Act. People can read all about it at healthcarechoices2020.org. And the president got excited, saying, oh, my goodness, there's another plan out there. This is my plan. Let's make America great again. And so he kind of said, let's go do this. But, Senator McConnell is very focused on appointing judges, and you're right, Greg. He knows that anything that passed in the Senate is going to hit a brick wall in the Democratic-controlled House, which has a very different agenda. So what I think this does is importantly set up the debate for the 2020 presidential election. This is a huge decision for the American people. What direction do you want your health care system to go in, that really the next generation? Do you want to go toward even more government control of the system with a Medicare for all, which really it's going to be mandatory Medicaid with no choices? Or do you really want to finally have a properly functioning market so that you as a consumer are in the driver's seat? You have more choices, a more affordable coverage that works for you and your family, that's portable, and that protects pre-existing conditions. Well, our plan does that and has been modeled to prove that on a platform, on a model that is very similar to the one the Congressional Budget Office uses. So the Healthcare Choices Plan really, I believe, is going to give people a robust alternative to the various Medicare for All plans out there. And the president's right. We need to have this as a presidential-level debate, and then the Congress can come out and pass whichever one of those two the president, the winning candidate has supported. So that's really, I think it's right that nothing is going to get through in this Congress. So let's have that debate. Let's clarify that debate. Let's give people clear options on both sides, and then may the best man win, or woman.
Well, let's dig into this a little bit more now. The president seems to be now on board with your plan. What about Republicans in Congress? The problem the first time around in 2017 with this effort was that you couldn't get to 50 in the Senate with that plan. There's a couple more Republicans there now, but of course Republicans don't have the House. But if Republicans win the House in 2020, which is a pretty big if, and you get to this position again, is it possible to build a consensus around this idea?
Absolutely. The reason this plan is different is that it says, we realize the federal government is completely out of its element in regulating, overseeing, managing, micromanaging something as regional and personal as healthcare. We believe the states, which, by the way, have decades of experience in overseeing health insurance markets, can spend this money more wisely and will have incentives to give their citizens more choices to lower costs, and we have evidence that that's already happening in some small demonstration projects, with using the Obamacare money differently, and ultimately pushing that control down to consumers to make sure they have more choices in a more functional market than they do now, with the protections that people really demand, rightly, that pre-existing conditions, chronic conditions, and the poor would be protected. So there absolutely is an agenda. This is something that is a viable plan. We just did a briefing with about a dozen reporters here in Washington this morning to bring them up to speed with this plan. And I think that it can actually be something that is a viable answer to Medicare for all.
We're talking with Grace Marie Turner of the Galen Institute. And Grace Marie, on the policy side here, one of the things that some healthcare policy conservatives have pointed out is there's two goals in conflict here. One is to provide coverage to people with pre-existing conditions, which is expensive because they already require quite a bit of care. And on the other end, you want to bring down premiums and copays and deductibles as much as humanly possible. So how do you do both?
Well, and that's the beauty of this example is that there is a provision in Obamacare called the State Flexibility, State Innovation Provision, Section 1332, that gives states the ability to say, let me take some of this money that's currently going to insurance companies and instead repurpose it to give additional support for people who have high health care costs, who have expensive chronic conditions, and use some of that money to separately subsidize them so that people in the general pool don't have to pay such high premiums to cross-subsidize them. What they're seeing is that people that have greater health needs are able to get better care, and it lowers the pressure on the general pool so that more people find that coverage more affordable, and therefore you find more people insured. In Maryland, for example, by just doing this one kind of experiment, they were able to reduce premiums in their individual market by 43% over what they otherwise would have been. And what happens to that? They wind up with more people covered because then the coverage is more affordable for them. So that's the kind of example that we think there's seven states are using this Section 1332 authority for what we call risk mitigation, high-risk pools, reinsurance, invisible high-risk pools, other kinds of things that the states are doing. Alaska is out front on this as well, to give people more affordable coverage by providing better protection for people with chronic conditions. And you asked earlier also about support for this. There are a lot of people in the Congress who are very enthusiastic about this. The leadership is really not there yet, but we believe, we're policy people, right? That's what we do. We want to have a plan ready, so when they say, we really need to have a robust answer to this Medicare for all mandatory Medicaid program that the left is offering. So we believe that this plan will be there, and the people who are learning about it, they're asking us to come in to brief them about it, are going to be the leaders in being able to not only sell it to their colleagues and explain it to their colleagues, but really go out and talk to the voters about it.
Grace Marie, is all of this contingent on Republicans winning the House, the Senate, and the White House in 2020? Or is the fact that a lot of this gets pushed to the states mean that liberal-leaning states can have their way with this? Well,
you don't give federal money to the states without some guardrails, and that's really one of the things that we've worked especially hard on, is to make sure that this money is not being used to create a state-level single-payer system, because we really don't think that's what the American people want. All the polls show, oh, yeah, sounds great. I can have all the free health care I want, and I don't have to pay anything. I don't have to pay any premiums. I don't have to pay any coinsurance. I don't pay any deductibles. But then when people start to hear that, you mean that means my taxes are going to double? I'm going to lose my employer insurance? No, thank you. So we think people are going to look beyond that and really say, okay, let's take a look at this plan and see if we can't find a better way to make our markets work so that they really do give people the choices and the lower costs that they want.
We'll be watching, as you mentioned, a major policy debate for the upcoming campaign. If it becomes a campaign on the issues, I know it's mainly yes or no on Trump in the minds of a lot in the media, but if issues get their attention, this will be one of the big dividing points, clearly.
Indeed it will.
Grace Marie, always good to have you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Grace Marie Turner, president of the Galen Institute. I'm Greg Columbus reporting for Radio America.